This past week has been absolutely insane. The news cycle is making me personally feel like I'm aging at a 2 or 3x speed. I don't know about you, but I feel like I'm starting to get some gray hairs, and I'm only 30, man. What the hell's going on? And then I make myself a coffee, I relax. It's a Saturday morning. I spend time with my family. And then I find out that bombs from Israel to Lebanon are just absolutely insane. I mean, it's getting to the point where even NATO, whether it's tied to the Israel war or the Ukraine war, NATO, I made a video yesterday, has said that they're basically telling Canada to pack your bags. You're going to be going to war very, very soon. And then you see, okay, that's going on with Canada and the Middle East. What about America? Then there's a hurricane that's about to delete Florida off the map. Well, that's not good. That must be all, right? No. Then you got Justin Trudeau, who almost got attacked at a protest. Now, look, I don't like the guy. I think his policies are absolutely shite. I think that he's caused a lot of harm. But again, like peaceful protests. Now, it wasn't what you would think. It wasn't a Canadian peaceful protest, like pro-Canada, waving Canadian flags, F.U. Trudeau. Those protests, as we've seen, have consistently been peaceful. This was the pro-Palestinian protests, and it got a little bit out of hand where the police, not the security guards, the police had to restrain people because they tried to attack one of Justin Trudeau's motorcade vehicles. Who knows what could have come from it? And then they're also throwing unidentified objects at the motorcades. We still don't know what they were throwing, and I can almost guarantee you that this will not be in the mainstream media, which is very, very bizarre, because if it was a pro-Canada carbon tax, axe the tax protest, and the same thing happened, boy, oh boy, would you ever have a tremendous amount of arrests. What do we call that? A bias. Yeah, that's Justin Trudeau. He's a bias. Justin Trudeau has, a bias. Welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to another video, everybody. Before we get into it, I do want to encourage you all to smash that like button and subscribe if you haven't yet already. It does really help grow the channel. We are very close to 410,000 subscribers, and you may have subscribed in the past, but YouTube does this really strange thing where they actually unsubscribe people from channels like this. So just check to see if you are still subscribed. And without further ado, let's get into it. So we're going to start off with the polls here. You got Pierre Poilievre sitting at 220 projected seats with a bottom line of 192. Everything is looking good. Still only needs 172 seats. And then you got Trudeau at 64, the Bloc at 42, the NDP at 15. And something I don't talk about, which I probably should make a dedicated video about this, is the upcoming provincial election. I believe it's on October 9th. I just recently went and saw John Rustad, who's the Conservative Party of BC's candidate running for premier. I went and saw him talk. I shook his hand, and wow, I mean, he didn't ride the coattails of Pierre Poilievre from the federal level. He didn't say F Trudeau once. It was nothing like that. He was his own thing, and it was phenomenal. It captivated the crowd, and it was just, it makes me excited to vote. I've been very, very open about this. Yes, it's embarrassing, and I know I'm part of the problem, but I've never voted. I've never, ever voted once in my life. And I thought that maybe I would be issuing my first ever vote for Pierre Poilievre, right, for the federal level. But it seems like I'm going to be voting for this provincial, and I will be voting in favor of John Rustad. I will be voting Conservative here in BC. And I should make a dedicated video about this because, man, BC is nuts. Like, talk about the school curriculum, how we got SOGI. One of the first things he said was taking SOGI out of schools, and we're going to teach kids how to think, which is a phenomenal outlook. And so very excited about that, but we're going to save that for another day. Let's get into what's happening with Israel and Lebanon here. So another Israeli airstrike hitting Hezbollah weapons depot in Beirut. Nobody in Lebanon wants anything to do with Hezbollah tonight. And this has pretty much triggered a civil war, right? Like, you can see how massive this is. Civilians are surrounded by these areas. They have been told to evacuate due to this ongoing conflict. And you're seeing a lot of people in Lebanon start to reject Hezbollah members, right? They're trying to shoo them away. They're trying to Add social pressure, kick them out of town, rat them out because what's going on is just not okay. And then you actually have some missiles were reportedly shot towards an American towards American troops. Now, nobody was injured, no sailors, the vessel wasn't injured. It was quite easily deflected. But nonetheless, once you start targeting America, that's a whole different situation. And if we know one thing about America is they come knocking on your door and say, you need some freedom because we're here to provide that. So yikes, not looking good. It feels like that war is just going to get worse and worse until it literally can't anymore. But now let's kind of shift over to just some other news here. You got a rooftop rink downtown Toronto, only in Canada. That's pretty neat. It's probably something that a lot of people have fantasized about, but what one hell of a view, on a nice winter day with the sun out. That would be one phenomenal experience. And then you got this from the amazing Zoltan on X. He shared this clip. An accredited Canadian journalist has finally asked Trudeau MP how they feel about the Coutts 4. Let's take a look.
Federal government used the arrest of 4 Alberta men charged with conspiracy to killing an RCMP officer just as a justification to break up protests in Ottawa and in Windsor.
That was weird.
These charges now have largely been dropped. So does this undermine the government's reasoning for using the Emergency Act to break up the protest?
Not at all. Not at all. I was an active participant in those conversations around invoking the Emergencies Act. I think Canadians recognize that it was an extraordinary measure of last resort. I think Canadians supported the invocation. It was a time-limited, reasonable, and balanced measure which brought an end to a very dangerous, potentially violent, and economically destructive circumstance. So I'm very proud of that decision the government took. It was the right decision, and the courts and the justice system work independently from the government. But the government, I think, took the only responsible decision at that time, and I'm...
So that's what's so scary about this is the courts have decided that what the government did by invoking the Emergencies Act, it was illegal. There was no need for it. And then when given an opportunity to say, now that the courts have ruled that it was illegal, we should take a more cautious look at how we use certain powers within government. That's the appropriate response. That would gain a lot of respect from a lot of people. But that's obviously not the approach that they decided to take. It was the opposite. No, we double down on the fact that we use something illegally and unlawfully, and that stained Canada's reputation forever. Not a very good approach from a federal MP. And then we have another clip here that the amazing Zoltan has provided. Happening now, a stunning rapid fire of wacko statements. NDP MP Heather says she will never support Pierre Poilievre on anything. And this is extremely dangerous. Like, just being out the gate anti anyone just because is so dangerous. You're literally, that's not in the best interest of anybody. That's in your own best interest to just oppose for the sake of opposing. That does not benefit Canadians. These people are radical.
Are you going to support the confidence motion of Mr. Poilievre today?
No.
And what do you make of
I will support Mr. Poilievre, never, likely.
Okay. And Mr. Genesis?
Like, why would you say that? I will likely never support Pierre Poilievre. That's such a conclusive thing to say. You are hired by the people to work and represent for the people, yet you are choosing to take a stance on things that have never even taken place, where you already claim a bias to just oppose for the sake of opposing. Like, that's just so weird. And that needs to stop in government, because that's harming our country. You can have opposing parties that come together, unanimously and agree on certain things. But the NDP is so radicalized. The Liberals are so radicalized. It just doesn't make any sense. Like, look at what Pierre Poilievre has been saying. Right, we're going to take government buildings and government land and we're going to sell it off so Canadians have a place to live. Justin Trudeau then comes out soon after and says we're going to take government land and we're going to sell it out on a Crown 99-year lease to people so that we can build more homes. Right, he's taken quite literally Pierre's idea turned it around just a little bit and dishes it out. So you have, you know, good thoughts that are brought to the table, and sure, it got changed. Yeah, it's not as good as it could be, but they still kind of agree on some things. And the NDP is the worst party in there. I don't know if people realize this, but the NDP has held 41 plus million Canadians hostage to a coalition government that literally nobody voted for. And they have such radical opposing views for the sake of having radical opposing views. Like making the conclusive statement that I'm going to oppose everything that the other people say the other side says without ever seeing it is just, if I were Pierre, I would almost mess with that a little bit, but I think that could backfire in the long run. But I'd love to know what you guys think down below in the comments. And then we have Garnet Genius here, who is making a public statement about these alleged homophobic slurs, right? About the bathtub comment, because Justin Trudeau has spent $9 million of taxpayers' money on a luxury condo on Billionaires Row in New York. Now, he uses that place to host other people the way, a salesman or something would, right? The way a CEO running a corporation would, brings people into the condo, wine and dine them or whatever. And then you've looked into, the Conservatives have looked into how much money, like that $9 million condo, but what was put into it? Where did all the money come from? Turns out that I think there was over a $5,000 copper bathtub. That's a lot of money. You could redo an entire bathroom for $5,000. I don't think I've ever seen a $5,000 bathtub. But nonetheless, Justin Trudeau has spent $5,000. And before we even play the video, you can see the top comment here by Jack. Before anyone starts with Garnet is a homophobe, I'll just say his comments were not homophobic slurs. As a gay man, I know what a homophobic slur is, and what he said wasn't. Even I said to myself, are they taking meetings in the tub? In reference to the multi-million-dollar apartment with a luxury bathroom with a copper tub. It's not homophobic to just comment on how expensive that tub is. But let's see what Garnet has to say about his statements.
Hi, everyone. Well, I know you all probably want to hear about what happened in Parliament this week. So here it is. Canadians have lost all confidence in this NDP Liberal government, and Conservatives have put forward multiple non-confidence motions in order to bring about a carbon tax election. On Tuesday, at the first opportunity, Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre moved the first non-confidence motion. Now, after promising to tear up their agreement with the Liberals, the NDP taped things back together and voted for Justin Trudeau to stay in office. Conservatives stood alone in Parliament this week, but we stood on the side of Canadians who are the only party that is standing up to Justin Trudeau. We are the only party offering a real alternative. Of course, something else happened on Wednesday. The Prime Minister doubled down on his defense of the hated carbon tax and lashed out at all who disagreed. Now, on Thursday afternoon, after questions period, the Speaker ruled in favor of a Conservative question of privilege. The Liberal government breached the privileges of Parliament when they refused to hand over documents related to the Green Slush Fund scandal. Of course, Liberals would love to talk about anything but their scandals and their failed carbon tax, which is why they had such a rough week. But we're going to keep fighting for the people of Canada, the common people who care more about their paychecks and their safety than about the drama in Ottawa. We are fighting to restore the country we know and love. Your home, my home, our home, let's bring it home.
So props to Garnet for, even though there's been so much social pressure towards him to retract his statements, to apologize. Like, the Liberals took what he said and on the spot, on a quick dime, Justin Trudeau said, that's a homophobic slur and I stand up to bullies and blah, 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 and turned it into a massive theatrical, dramatic performance, which is honestly what Justin Trudeau is best at, given his history as a very promising but failed drama teacher. Nonetheless, Liberals took immediately to the press. Which Randy was it? We don't know. One of the Randys, maybe Cheeseburger Randy, Boissonneau, went up and said, as a gay man, this is extremely offensive and blah, blah, blah. And they tried to spin it into this massive homophobic thing. And even the NDP has spun it out of control. And it's not really, they're not getting the results that they want. And so Garnett is fighting and standing up for what he believes in and what he said. But of course, I'd love to know what you guys think down below in the comments. Was it homophobic? Was it not homophobic? Let me know what you guys think. Now we have to take a brief look at what's going on in Florida. So a massive hurricane is about to hit, and it's going to cause immense amount of damages. It's geared to be one of the most powerful storms to strike the U.S., and it really feels like it's just happening more and more every year, right? It's like you go back to this time last year, go back to a couple years ago. It's still as worse as it gets, but it's true. It keeps getting pretty bad.
As a deadly Category 4 hurricane. It has since been downgraded to a tropical storm, but it's still packing a lot of power, pummeling several states. More than 24 people have been killed, and roughly 4 million homes and businesses in Florida, Georgia, and the Carolinas are without power. CTV's Joy Melvin is tracking the storm for us and its trail of destruction. Joy, where is it now?
Heather, when officials warned that this hurricane would be bad, no one expected anything like this.
Crashing into Florida's Gulf Coast last night, Hurricane Helene unleashed its fury.
Oh my goodness.
Making landfall as a deadly Category 4 storm. As it roared ashore, hundreds of people were trapped. Emergency crews rushing to rescue as many as they could.
Anybody in your house?
This man and his dog swept out to sea when his sailboat took on water off Sanibel Island. The catastrophic storm surge swamping cities, bridges, neighborhoods. Some homes completely flooded out.
Please do not go out and visit the impacted areas. I beg you. We literally have over 1,500 search and rescue personnel in the highly impacted areas right now. Do not get in their way.
And by morning, the damage was absolutely heartbreaking. Properties destroyed, power knocked out to millions, boats washed up on front lawns. Even as it weakened to a tropical storm, Helene battered the Carolinas and Georgia. Coastal flooding an immediate threat.
This has been a deadly storm. We've had 11 confirmed fatalities, 115 structures that are heavily damaged that we know there are multiple people trapped inside.
And with all this destruction, the race is on to free people using chainsaws to free up roads and literally cutting their way in. In Tallahassee, those who rode out the storm grateful they didn't take a direct hit. An anxious night, though, for Canadian Robin Yateman.
I did not think I was going to have a home standing this morning. Yeah, it was very scary, waiting the anticipation, and then it just didn't come.
So we're going to have to wait and see how this all plays out. But let me know down in the comments if you have anyone that's been affected by this or know anyone that's been affected by this, because this is usually after times like this when, you know, massive parts of the communities that were affected come together and you see some resilience, right? And so we're going to just have to wait and see how this plays out. Now we're taking a look at what happened with Justin Trudeau. So there was a pro-Palestine anti-Trudeau protest that took place outside of a liberal meeting, a liberal dinner, right, where it was $1,500, if I'm not mistaken, per plate to attend. And it was, some people are calling it a way for Justin Trudeau to pander to the Muslim votes because there was predominantly, it looks like, Muslim people attending. And outside of the venue, you had an enormous amount of nuisance that blocked Trudeau's motorcade from entering, to the point where they had to just circle around the building and find a different way to get in because that's how obnoxious it was, to the point where you even had police have to intervene because someone tried to lunge at one of these vehicles, you know, effectively trying to harm or attack Justin Trudeau to make a message. We don't really know. The motives are unclear yet. We don't even know if these people have been arrested, if I'm being totally honest, which again is absolutely insane and not the same type of treatment that you would get if it were a different protest with a different demographic. But let's take a look here at what we got. This footage is all brought to you by Karima Saad on X. Highly recommend you guys go and check her out. Protest targeting an evening with Trudeau. Ugh. Fundraiser with MP Shafkat Ali to hinder perceived liberal pandering to the Muslim community.
The millions of dollars towards bombs and jets to kill our people in the global south. Shame!
So that was early in the evening. People started to gather, and then you see that ticket prices are $1,500 regular price, and some people start to slowly roll in, and I mean, they get absolutely heckled. So you saw a couple security members right there, a small police presence later in the evening. But once the sun comes down, you're going to start to see a tremendously increased population in the police with the yellow vests.
Shame on you! Shame on you! You're complicit in this too! You're complicit in this too! Shame on you!
That's a bit of a weird stare down, but nonetheless, the sun comes down and the police start to come out of their vehicles with their plan of action of basically blockading the protesters and trying to confine the area. Ba, 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 ba. And the unfortunate thing about what we're about to watch and how it escalates is that it's going to ruin protesting in Canada. Like Justin Trudeau has said himself that, you know, he encourages people for lawful assembly and right. He's said all the stuff that he's proven he doesn't actually want to say, right? By cracking down and turning this into a police state. But when people cross that threshold, cross that barrier of a peaceful protest, and they start to, you know, throw objects or try to cause harm or even lunge at vehicles, trying to attack people, and they cross that line from peaceful assembly, protesting, a demonstration to something that, you know, a call of action or a violent action, that's where it ruins it. It ruins the ability of peaceful protesting and the ability to assemble like this and peacefully demonstrate. It just ruins it. And so we don't know yet, like Justin Trudeau the government hasn't made a statement in regards to this, but they will. I firmly believe that they absolutely will. Protesters actually sat on the road to block vehicles outside of the Liberal Party. You can see right there, they're just sitting down. And then the police are working hand in hand with probably Paladin Security or something like that, saying there's nothing we can do. We can't physically remove people, at least not yet. Maybe go around, find a different entrance, park further away, and you're gonna have to walk here. You can tell that individual did not want to be on camera. Like these protests here, by blocking the road like that and quite literally stopping cars. I know some people view that as that's what the Freedom Convoy did, but the Freedom Convoy was positioned by police and there was still lanes for emergency vehicles. Like the police are the ones that set up how the Freedom Convoy would look like, right? And that was a massive protest. From my understanding, I don't think there's ever been a peaceful assembly from like a Canadian protest, right? Like a axe the tax or carbon tax protest, or just a regular F Trudeau protest where you wave Canadian flags that's blocked the road like this. I don't think that you've even seen that, right? You've always seen very lawful and peaceful assemblies. But then tensions start to rise when the motorcade makes its way to the venue. So let's take a look now. Keep your eyes right here on this side. As you can see right there, someone tries to lunge at the vehicles and the police throw them back into the lineup, which is crazy. I mean, if this were any other protest, they would be arrested on the spot.
Don't worry. You're welcome. Thank you.
So you see all this stuff on the ground here? That actually, we still don't know what it is, but it almost looks like a pillowcase with stuff in it. And you know how Werther's candies, or like just candy wrappers in general, they twist each side right opposite to each other. That's how they wrap this. So we don't even know what's in it, but you're about to see in an upcoming clip where they start to throw it at the motorcade, right? Let's take a look here.
Trudeau, you can hide. Trudeau, you can hide. We can't do it genocide.
Can you explain what happened with Justin Trudeau and his vehicles?
So the motorcade came down the street. Police were blocking protesters, but in this corner here, people sat down and put obstructions. Ultimately, the convoy had to keep driving. Trudeau was not able to make it into the building. Now people have been removed. We'll see if the Prime Minister returns.
That is wild that has taken place. And then in this one, you see people start throwing stuff, as you can see on the bottom of the screen.
Shame on you!
There it is, right? Kind of crazy. I feel like the police have not given that same leniency with literally any other protest. Like, these have been going on for almost a year, right? We're approaching October 7th, and I think a lot of people just have a really, really bad feeling about October 7th. It just feels like it's in the air, right? Something bad is potentially going to happen. And doing this type of behavior, which is obviously condoned, or not condoned, sorry, whoops, not condoned by a lot of people. A lot of people reject this type of protest, right? Throwing things at Trudeau's motorcade, throwing things in general at a protest, that's not peaceful, right? That ruins it. You're ruining it for an entire country. You're ruining it for yourself, right? You're going to get arrested. You're going to not be allowed to ever protest. And then the person who lunged at Justin Trudeau's vehicle, like, why isn't that on the front page, right? Why isn't that on CTV, on the mainstream media? Hey, breaking, somebody just tried to attack Justin Trudeau's motorcade. You bet your ass. If that was a Canadian flag waving protest, a carbon tax protest, and somebody did the exact same thing, it would be on the front page. It would be breaking news. They'd be talking about it all weekend, all of next week. And this is why we need to cut down on allowing people to protest, because it gets out of control. You bet your ass that that's exactly where that rhetoric would be taken. But for some reason, they're not having the same reactions to this. And it just feels so disingenuous. It feels manipulative. It feels almost conspiratorial. It's like gaslighting. Like, why isn't the media talking about this? Right? Are they just blatantly ignorant? Are they trying to hide something? It doesn't make any sense. But I'd love to know any theories that you, the viewers, have, and just your comments in general about the entire situation. And that is where we're going to end this video. If you haven't yet already, I'd really like to encourage you guys to smash the like button and subscribe. And if you want to support the channel, get yourself a membership, right? It's fairly inexpensive. Of course, if you have the money to do that, it does help support the channel financially, which thank you to all the channel members who have. And, as well, check out the links down below for other channels and for the merch site and all that good stuff. And I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye for now.